Oslo, 1893. Among the bustling crowds, a young mathematics student named Karl Stormer captured moments that no one else could see or even suspect at the time. Hidden beneath his heavy winter coat was a secret lens, a primitive spy camera recording the faces of a city that believed it was completely unobserved and private. But among these thousands of candid shots, one figure stands out like a ghost from the past, a man whose fate was sealed the moment the shutter clicked. This is Julian Thorne, a wealthy heir to a Victorian shipping fortune. 24 hours after this final photograph was taken, he would vanish from the earth forever. As we look into his eyes, they seem to track a phantom threat. He was a man with everything to lose and a secret that cost him everything. Today we use modern technology to reanimate these lost moments, peering through the keyhole of history to solve a mystery that has been cold for a century. The evidence lies hidden within the archives of Stormer's hidden lens. Each frame is a puzzle piece in the final day of a man marked for disappearance. What did Julian see? And who was watching him from the shadows of Karl Johans' gate? The answers are frozen in silver nitrate and forgotten memories. Karl Johans' gate was the heart of the city, a place of elegance and status. But for Julian Thorne, it became a labyrinth of invisible dangers. The streets are filled with silent witnesses, people going about their daily lives, completely unaware that they were being recorded by a student with a camera. Stormer moved like a ghost, capturing the raw reality of the Victorian era. No poses, no fake smiles, just the unfiltered truth of a world long gone. Between the smoke of expensive cigars and the clatter of carriage wheels, Julian Thorne was being followed. He was a marked man in a sea of strangers. Look at these faces. They are the background of a crime. One of them might have seen the last moments of the heir before he stepped into darkness. The wealth of the Thorne family was legendary, but in the shadows of the palace, money could not buy safety from the enemies Julian had made. The hidden camera captured more than just scenery. It captured the tension. Someone was always just a few steps behind, watching, waiting for the right moment. Every sound in the city seemed to scream of his impending fate. The flapping of wings, the rhythmic trot of horses, the whispers behind closed doors. He was trying to disappear even before he actually did. Julian Thorne was a man running out of time and places to hide in his own city. Every second brought him closer to the end. The inheritance was a heavy burden, a target painted on his back that he could never truly remove. In the glass of the storefronts we see the truth. He wasn't alone. A shadow followed him through the bright daylight of the Norwegian capital. Photograph number 442. This is the moment the investigators missed. A single frame that contains the identity of the primary suspect. Who is this man standing beside Julian? He appears in 3 consecutive photos, always at a distance, always watching with a cold and calculating intensity. The physical contact was brief, but the message was clear. There was no escape. The heir was being cornered in the middle of a public square. His identity remains a mystery to this day, a nameless enforcer of a debt that Julian Thorne could never hope to pay back in full. Notice the envelope clutched in his hand. It wasn't there in the morning shots. A delivery was made, a final ultimatum handed over in the crowd. What was written on those pages? A demand? A threat? Or perhaps the location of a meeting that Julian knew he would never return from alive. The atmosphere turns cold. The daylight is fading, and with it, the safety of the public eye. Julian is moving toward the darker parts of Oslo. We can trace his final steps through these images. He was being funneled, pushed toward the slums where the police rarely ventured and secrets stayed buried. His eyes tell the story of a man who knows he is trapped. Every person he passes is a potential enemy, every corner a potential trap. 3 locations, 3 photos. The persistence of the shadow is undeniable. This was not a chance encounter. It was a professional and calculated abduction. Time is running out for the Thorne legacy. The golden boy of Oslo is about to become a ghost, leaving only these silent images behind. The investigation leads us away from the high society of the palace and into the damp, narrow alleys where the sun never touches the ground. Stormer followed Julian into the underworld. The photos become darker, as more grainy, capturing the gritty reality of the city's hidden and dangerous underbelly. Julian Thorne was not the saint his family claimed. He was a man of hidden vices, drawn to the gambling dens and the desperate people within. Debts had piled up, hidden behind a veneer of Victorian respectability. He had gambled away a fortune that wasn't even his to lose yet. He sought help in the wrong places. This woman, a regular in the docks taverns, may have been his last hope for a way out. Using AI lip sync, we can almost hear her warning. She told him to run, to leave the city before the night was over, but he stayed. But the debt collectors had already arrived. The shadow that followed him all day had finally caught up, and there was no one to save him. The music of the underworld is a funeral dirge for the elite. Julian Thorne was a fish out of water gasping for air in a sea. She knew what was coming. She had seen men like Julian disappear before, swallowed by the docks and the cold waters of the Oslo fjord. The last glimpse of Thorne in the tavern. He's being led away, his posture slumped, the fire of his youth extinguished by overwhelming and total fear. Behind closed doors, the agreements were made. The heir was no longer a person. He was a liability that needed to be permanently and quietly removed. 6 o'clock in the evening. The final hour of Julian Thorne's known life begins now. The hunt moves from the shadows back into the streets. Stormer's camera captures a frantic chase. Julian is running, his hat lost, his clothes dishevelled, a desperate man trying to find one last safe haven. He looks directly at us through the keyhole. In this moment, he isn't a historical figure. He is a living soul pleading for a rescue. The pursuit was relentless. Behind him, the man in the long coat never breaks his stride, a silent predator that cannot be outrun or outsmarted. Stormer followed as far as he dared. He was a witness to a crime in progress, his thumb constantly pressing the shutter in the heat of the moment. The final destination, a house at the end of a dead-end street. He pounds on the wood, but the city remains deaf to his frantic cries. The chase ends here. There are no more alleys to turn down, no more crowds to hide in. Julian Thorne is finally and utterly alone. We see his mouth move, a name, a prayer, or a final confession to the man who has come to take his life and his legacy. The final act is about to be committed. The camera captures the moment of impact, the blurring of motion as the struggle begins in the dark. And then he was gone. No body was ever found. No ransom note was ever sent. Julian Thorne simply ceased to exist in the physical world. The newspapers would call it the mystery of the century. They searched the docks, the hills, and the fjords, but found nothing but cold silence. Stormer's hidden lens provided the only evidence that ever existed. A series of moments that, when put together, tell a story of a doomed man. More than a century has passed since Karl Stormer walked these streets. The technology he used was primitive, but the truth it captured is eternal. Stormer went on to become a famous scientist, but he never forgot the faces he stole from the streets, especially the one that vanished. Oslo has changed. The cobblestones are paved over, the oil lamps are replaced by neon, and the people carry their own cameras in their pockets. But if you look closely at the corners of the city, the ghosts of the past still linger, waiting for someone to finally tell their story. The mystery of the vanishing heir remains unsolved. A cold case frozen in time, preserved by the curious hobby of a student mathematician. We may never know what happened behind that wooden door. Some secrets are meant to be kept by the shadows and the passage of time. Julian Thorne's answer lies within the eyes of the stranger Stormer captured. If you look long enough, perhaps you will see the truth for yourself.